Attention, please. The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
You're listening to the House of Cards on Facebook, YouTube, and BigPatriotRadio.com. All licenses for music and content have been purchased by and are for the express use of Big Patriot Radio Networks. All information, opinions, and topics are for entertainment purposes only and do not expressly represent the opinions of the show's host and/or producer. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Introducing to you.
You're on House of Cards, live on Facebook and YouTube.
It's going down.
Locked and loaded with the truth.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome in. It is Beaufort County's House of Cards. Glad to have you with us. We're back after 2 weeks. We had a 2-week off period there. A lot of stuff going on. It is the 16th of October, 2025. We're coming to you live from the studio here, the Big Patriot Radio Network studio in the great state of South Carolina. Again, welcome to everybody watching in on Facebook, YouTube, simulcasting live on BigPatriotRadio.com. Hope everybody can hear us. Had a couple of technical glitches there right before coming on, so we're going to jump into this. We've already got our first guest in the back room. He's in the green room right now having some, I believe tonight, the missus has brought out some chocolate chip cookies and a little adult beverage. So we're going to get onto that here in just a minute. Thank you again to everybody for coming out and staying abreast with what's going on and tuning in with us here on the House of Cards. There is supposed to be, and I don't see it, so let's just do it again. There's supposed to be a QR code on your screen. Does anybody see a QR code? If not, we're going to do something here real quick. I'm going to create this through the network, and it'll take you. You can pass this along to your friends, and it'll take them right to the simulcast. Now, on my screen, I don't see it. I just created it. I don't see it. If somebody sees it, fantastic. Have fun with it. Otherwise, I don't see where it works. So we'll just keep moseying on down that street. Anyway, I want to say thank you to those folks who have been with us through the entirety of this program. Gosh, what is it, like 2 or 3 years now? Unbelievable. Thank you so much for being there with us. If you're brand new to the show, glad to have you as well. Each and every week, it seems like we get more and more viewers. Hey, if you want to help the show out, you see our scrolling there on the bottom of the screen. Here, I think I see what the whole problem is. It should be this color and not blue. Don't they know how I feel about that? Anyhow, scrolling on the bottom of the screen there is our Venmo. We're looking for 2,500 Facebook stars tonight. So for those of you on Facebook, please go and contribute. We appreciate that. These stars and any contributions help keep this show going, brings us the ability to continually flash in new news, information that you can depend on. And as we say, we do the scrolling so you don't have to. We do have a new advertiser on board with us. I'm sure if you've been listening to Big Patriot Radio, you have heard about skipsstefuskytees.us. I think we have a word from skipsstefuskytees.us. Skipstefusky Tees is giving you a reason to laugh and a reason to travel. Every shirt you buy is a ticket in the Trump Trip giveaway, where you could win a luxury stay in New York City, Vegas, or Miami. We're talking penthouse suites, spa days, casino chips, and flights for two. And all you had to do was buy a t-shirt. Go to skipsstefuskytees.us and grab yours now. The shirts are funny. The prize, it's serious. Well, like I said, they're all over BigPatriotRadio.com. That's skipsstefuskytees.us. Go check them out. Actually, I have one now, and it's actually in the laundry after I wore it. or I'd bring it out here. Should have done that. Incredible selection of shirts. They've got Americana, patriotic, U.S. military, Trump. The one I got has a picture of it's the Golden Dome kind of theme with Pete Hegseth there. Shirts with GOP. There's some shirts taking shots, no pun intended, at Iran. There are shirts, and there's shirts that have nothing to do with all that, any of that. They're just pretty, dogs and cats and mountains and whatever. All kind of stuff. Check them out. skipsdefuskytees.us. All American, made right here on Defusky Island in Beaufort County. Go check them out. And the shirt was only $25. That's it. Where can you can't even go to Walmart and buy a $25 shirt anymore. 80%. This is what John, the owner, made a pledge. He said 80% of the profits from these tees, they're going to directly send to WinRed campaign sites to help elect America First, pro-conservative folks on up and down the ticket, hopefully even here locally. So once again, that is skipsdefuskytees.us. We appreciate them for being here with Big Patriot Radio.
Locked and loaded.
Let's go.
Big Patriot Radio. Blues, news, country pop, and classic rock.
All right. Someone, we have a new viewer. I think they're coming in via, it looks like YouTube. Arnold Fitz. Arnold, is this a lawyer channel? Why, no, it's not. We do talk legal stuff, though. So, hey, we're glad to have you, Arnold. Not sure where is he coming from. I don't see that on my tag. Where is Beaufort County, Georgia? Oh, no, son. This is in South Carolina, right here on the coast. Hilton Head Island, Beaufort, Parris Island, St Helena, Bluffton, and so much more. Anyway, we're going to jump right in. Thanks, Arnold, for being here. Tell your friends, because we go crazy. This is the truth. Nothing but the truth. So help me, God. And tonight is probably one of the biggest shows we're going to have. We're going to jump right into it. What a freaking huge show this is. You're going to need to contact your friends. If you see that QR code, send it to them. Otherwise, text them real quick. I hope the popcorn is ready. And the beer, wine, water, Mountain Dew, whatever, is on the table with you. There's been I can't say it any other way than there's been a shit ton of news around this area over the last several weeks, actually months, and it's not really been positive news. I've been in and out of town, Texas, North Carolina, places, so some shows were delayed. I was stuck here and there, whatever. And probably not bad because things have been developing. So we wanted to, we've been working on a story. You've heard it here first, actually, about Beaufort County Councilman Tom Reitz. Represents, he represents the whole county, but his district is District 11, the southern end of Hilton Head Island, mid-island to the south end of the island. He had his county, I'm going to condense this, he had his county and his personal phone confiscated in the parking lot of Java Burrito on Hilton Head Island by the Beaufort County Sheriff's Department. What, pray tell, did you do, Tommy? Well, we're going to go into that, and we've talked about it. Tom was inside the jail visiting an inmate who had called to ask for a visit, and there was some problems of him getting medications. He's an older guy. Tom went to see him, as anyone in the right mind would probably do. Anyway, again, we're going to get into this here just in two shakes, but they never patted him down. They never walked him through any security. They never wanded him like at the airport. They never, made him squat and cough. They never checked his pockets. They did take his backpack. Tom carries a backpack, much like I. They did take that, but they didn't lock it up. No, they put it behind a glass wall where little correctional officer A was working. Tom had a cell phone with him, had two cell phones. They didn't ask him. They let him in. They walked him in. Matter of fact, they gave him the freaking keys to the place. That's right. I asked that question months ago. They gave him the flipping keys. But they want to, and hey, he was on the verge in his mind, in his family's mind, and many people in the area of being arrested. Being arrested. Let's bring him on. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show, County Councilman Tom Reitz. Hey, buddy, how are you?
Good evening, sir. Not bad. How about you?
I'm doing wonderful. Always good to see you, my friend. I hope Miss Christine is doing well.
Likewise, Chris is doing very well. She's pleased that we're with you tonight. And Councilman, I want to thank you as well for having me on.
Well, absolutely, bud. And I want to go ahead and I want to get into this now. I guess I probably should preface this by saying that the investigation is over. So now you can talk about this. That is a correct statement, right?
You know, that the Officer Baird told the attorneys for us that the investigation is over. They're sending it over to, are they going to send it to ethics? And I don't even know what that means. So maybe you can educate me on that. But I believe the investigation is definitely over. Yes.
All right. So here's what we want to do. People want to know, there's been so many, opinions, and everybody, seems to hear from this one and that one. And I like to go and nothing derogatory about this, but I would like to hear from the horse's mouth, straight from the horse's mouth. And I've got some questions, but I want you to tell us, Tom, you got out of your car, locked the car, picked up your backpack, and you walked into the Beaufort County Detention Center, the jail. What happened next?
Let me start by saying something I think is critical. I thank my Lord and Savior, number one. This has been a tough number of weeks, not only for me, but we go back and we say something, from our hearts for the Charlie Kirk and his family, for the folks at St Helena. What happened there this past weekend, horrible. And even before I get into what took place on the 20th, entering the detention center, there were tons of people, including yourself, that stepped up for this humble councilman friend. And I'm telling you right now, it's, to me, if it wasn't for my Lord and Savior and these people stepping up, and we're talking a lot of them, and I won't name them because I don't want to put them in the crosshairs of anything. People I know, people I don't know, took it upon themselves to say, wait a second, this is not right. And proceeded to be, and my wife tells me, people that do the social media stuff said thousands of people stepped up. And this county is incredible. We have an incredible team, and we're going to make sure, all of us together, going to make sure things are done the proper way. So I love those people. I can't say enough of thanks and heartfelt gratitude to the people that stepped up, came to council meeting, spoke, stood up and spoke. Some have never done before.
Right.
And grateful, Bob. But listen, thank you for even let me say that.
Yeah. All right. You walked in the door.
Well, like,
first of all, let's say this. There's been a lot of rumors. Why were you there?
The leading up to the 19th, which was, I think, Tuesday, I had received a number of phone calls, and I didn't take a lot of them, from Mr. Hoagland and Miss Hoagland, Kathy Hoagland. The call I did take was the evening of the 19th, and it was from Kathy Hoagland, Skip's wife. And she proceeded to say that she had called me a number of times. I I had meetings, but she proceeded to say that if Skip stays there over the weekend, he's not going to last. He's going to die in jail. They're not getting him his medication. He had to be at the Mayo Clinic either that day or the day before, the day after, to do injections because he's getting a double knee replacement. Right. It was, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. I don't even know. I said to her, I said, listen, Kathy, your stars are aligned because I'm going to be at the Arthur Horn building, which is right on the same campus, about 10, 12 feet away, for an all afternoon, 1 o'clock to whatever workshop with the council. So I got there about 11 o'clock, something of that nature. And I walk in the front door, and I introduced myself, and I talked to him about getting an appointment to go see an inmate. And at that same time, I said, hey, I know Colonel Grant because a few months earlier, she had given a number of council members, including myself, a tour of an area that we appropriated funds for to clean up, retrofit, and make better, nicer. So that whole process was going on. During that few moments up front with this guard, my both phones go all constantly, and they were ringing, and I was answering them. I was asking the guard to give me a second. I was telling the people on the phone that, listen, I'm at the detention center setting up an appointment like any citizen would do, to see somebody. And, lo and behold, the guard said, hey, listen, I'm going to let you in, but I need your backpack.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a backpack on with my computer files, et cetera, for the workshop. He came out of his little area that he stands to get all the information, takes my backpack, puts it back in that little holding area where he stands to do his job.
Not
And
in a secured area, but in his little area.
yeah. And Mike, 2020, after the fact, hearing what should have been done, I should have been to a locker and had all my personal property thrown in a locker and locked up. That's just one of the many things I think that were deficient that afternoon or morning. We proceed to walk around a certain area. The guard is following me with a wand. We get to a spot. We stop. I don't get wanded. I don't get asked for anything. I just get pointed to a door, and I get toward a door, and somebody out a little window comes out with a key, and I sort of like, okay, what do I do with this key? Well, I take the key, and they said, go to the door. So I get to the door, and I put the key in with my right hand. I'm trying to open the door with my left, and at this time, it's not the video, which I wish they would show. I took that key, I hold the door open, I held it open, I let it go, try to put the key back to where the guard's hand was to hand me the key, and the door shuts. So somebody yells out that little window, take the key with you and get through the door. So I did that, get through, and I went around to the right. You can see in the video at that point that I handed on a shelf, and there was a little hand there waiting for it, because it's a little carve out window where I guess you put the key back. So that, I just set the key back on the shelf, and I proceed down the hall. I see Skip walk into a room.
So let's hold right there for
Yes,
a
sir.
second. So
Yep.
correct me if I'm wrong, and I want this to be in your words.
Yes, sir.
When you came in the facility, did you come in the back door or the front door?
I came right through the front door.
Okay, right through the front door.
Right through the front door.
How many phone calls did you get from Skip Hoagland, who I don't remember if it was the sheriff or the investigator or Chairwoman Howard, someone somewhere, one of those folks said that you had received over 120 phone calls from Skip Hoagland.
Mike, I'm going to tell you categorically, that's false. I mean, that is just nonsense.
How many
I
did
believe,
you receive?
listen, I believe they corrected that and said that he did create 129 calls, but I got a few of them, a handful, 3, 4, maybe. I answered one, which was recorded, which they cited in an article and, my interrogation and all. But, I received just a few out of the 129 that he.
129 phone calls, which I don't know. I've never been to jail. Matter of fact, have you, if you don't mind me asking, have you ever served time in prison or whatever?
No, sir, not at all. That was actually my first inmate that I ever went to see in my life.
Was that the first time you've ever been in, other than the tour, like we all take?
No,
was that the first time you ever been in that jail?
Well, first time in that jail, other than that tour. But the other time I was in a jail, my wife and I and another couple, we went on a vacation to San Francisco, and we went actually into Al Capone's cell, and that was the only time as a tour.
Okay. Suffice to say, as I've been telling people, I doubt, Tom, if you've ever had maybe more than one speeding ticket in the 40 years you've been on the earth. I really doubt it.
I believe you're correct, sir.
Is that true?
That's correct. Yeah.
See, there you go. I know people. So you only got 3 or 4 calls, not 129. First fallacy. You walked in the front door, not the back door. And what people will say, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, county councilman, some people have said, well, he's using his political prestige to gain entry. You walked in the front door, correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
Did you go through a scanner, a metal detector, whatever you want to call it?
It didn't go through any metal detector that I noticed at all, and I was not wanded down.
And you weren't wanded down. All right. Did they have like the thing at the airport where you put your hands like this and it sniffs around? Did they do that?
No, sir. No.
Okay. They didn't. You had a backpack on. Did they take the backpack and put it in a locker, a secured locker, where everyone else has to put their stuff? You said they
No,
put it where?
he actually came out of his guard gate area, taking some information, and actually put it back in with him, and then came back out and walked me around toward the innards
Okay.
of the big house.
If for the big house. For those people who never have seen this facility, I mean, in the middle of where you walk into this big rating room, it's like plexiglass or whatever, acrylic or clear. It's glass, and
Right,
they're in this little room. All right, so
right.
he puts your backpack in the room. Did he ask you, Mr. Reitz, do you have anything in your pockets? Any knives, bombs, cell phones, anything?
No, sir.
Okay, and they gave you. Make sure I understand this right. The guard gave a citizen the keys to the flippin' jail.
I actually, listen, my wife many years ago labeled me a stupid, stupid man, but from her heart, she meant that. She says I'm a little bit naive and things, but yes, they handed me keys and I didn't even know what to do with them at first. And a matter of fact, that door shut on me and I couldn't get in.
Yeah.
And then what I learned after the fact is that I should have been escorted, not only not given the keys, but somebody should have escorted me through this thing.
You think?
So again, you learn a lot when it's all over.
So you finally get through the door. You didn't try to hide the keys. You put them on a little shelf. I've seen the
Mhm.
video, and I probably need to
Mhm.
put that on Facebook so everybody else can see it, and it's public
Yeah.
knowledge. You put the keys down, and you proceeded. I saw Skip. You proceeded to go over to him.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever take out your cell phones and say, "Looky, looky, looky, what I did"?
Oh, nothing of that nature. I believe, Mike, the first time I took out my cell phone, when I was sitting with Skip, he was breaking down in tears saying his knees were hurting. He couldn't bend, sit down properly. He had a trouble walking on the walker. And I said, Skip, what kind of medications do you need? And he said, he pulled out this list. It had to be 7, 8, 9. I don't even know. I said, Bob, hang on. I took out my phone and that was the first picture I took, was a picture of his
Mhm.
medication. I said, when I get out, I'll get this to somebody and hopefully they can get it to you. And that was the first picture I took. But no, I did not broadcast, hey, look at me, I have phones.
Yeah.
No, I
All
didn't
right.
even think about it.
And where I'm going with that is intent. Before I get to intent, thank you, Gina, for tuning in. She had made a comment here, giving the keys to anyone, that's bad, but there is another door keeping him from going further. However, Gina, tell us, when you walked through that second door, did you have unfettered access to roam the halls of the jail?
It's interesting. Absolutely, yes. And I believe the news channels a week or so ago, they saw that video to where I actually did what we're talking about, where I went through, put the key on that little shelf. I had unfettered access. As a matter of fact, I know I walked down, and you can see it on the video to where Skip was without anybody. Um, we then went from that little room that we talked to, I said to him, I said, hey, show me your room, and I want to see where you. So we get down, we walked to his room. I took a picture of him on his walker because he was having trouble getting around.
Yep, I saw that.
We get to his jail cell where his little room is, where he's got to stay. And I took a picture and he went in, and crazy me, I do an awful lot with Dr. Rodriguez in the schools, and I meet the kids. I do a lot of stuff with whatever we can do to help the doc and the board of, school board. And I turned it and I took a selfie of me, which was a dumb thing, but I took a selfie of me and him in his cell. And I said, could I use this? If I go to see some kids and they're having some issues, I just want them to know that this is not the place they want to end up.
Right.
Skip says, hey, use it any way you want. So again, I had no intent other than to use it for hopefully educational purposes.
Sure. So let me, and I understand that. So again, I want to go back to, I'm building the intent question, and there has been comments from folks out there in La La Land, AKA society, that you had the intent of showing, you had the intent, they said, of going into this facility to do an investigative expose on the shitty conditions inside of it. Was that your intent of going there?
Absolutely not. That wasn't even a thought of mine. I mean, it was just his wife was upset. He was upset. Like I said, the stars lined up. I was going to be there that next day talking to Kathy that evening before. And I'd go in and see him as a natural, just a normal citizen setting up an appointment. As far as, and Mike, I'm going to say something that people may not like, but as far as I know, jail is not a place to be. So I'm not saying
No.
You should set it up to be a luxury. It shouldn't be, a clubhouse. It should be a jail. So I had no intention whatsoever going up there to investigate anything. Quite the contrary. I respect law enforcement. I've grown up my whole life respecting it. I respect, there's a lot of things about this that don't make sense that we're going to hopefully get to, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for guards, law enforcement. I had an uncle that was a sheriff for 37 years. Believe me, tremendous respect. So no.
So you did not have, and I think any logical human being would say Tom Reitz did not go there after receiving 120 some odd phone calls from an inmate. Tom Reitz did not go there with the intent of embarrassing the detention center for the conditions of the club. You went there. Is it safe to say, let me just interject this.
Sure.
Looking back, all of it, with taking the cell phones, which you didn't do with the intent of doing any harm.
Right.
All of that. Is it safe to say that looking back, this was a bad choice?
I would do things definitely. I've learned a valuable lesson without a doubt. But I tell you, Mike, I'm not debating or discussing. I went there. I wanted to go in as I set up an appointment like a normal citizen would to check on somebody. And I did everything I was told to do. So yeah, would I do things differently? You better believe it 100%.
But it's not, we talk in county government, we don't expect Joe and Jane citizen to know the explicit details of stormwater management, for an example.
Oh,
that's not expected.
No.
Would you agree with me in saying that it's not expected that Joe and Jane America citizen should have to know the rules in and out around the jail? Rather, the people that operate the jail need to, follow standard operating procedures and protocols. It's their issue. I mean, is that a fair statement?
Not only is it a fair statement, believe it or not, this humble councilman feels that people that actually run the jail should know it cold and not have to worry about people that come off the street, whether they're anybody, to know what they're supposed to be looking for, what the procedures are. I mean, I tell you, not for anything. I know we'll get into it as we get into this discussion and when I left that jail cell with Skip and who I met in the lobby, you'll find out there the shock I had to when I was told, geez, you shouldn't have been in there.
Yeah.
Well, craziness. But
so
again,
real quick, it's the bottom half of the hour, 7:30 here on Big Patriot Radio, Beaufort County's House of Cards. Coming up at 7:45, we've got Jindia Blount's going to be on here with me. We're going to talk all things St Helena right here on Beaufort County's House of Cards.
Let's go!
The
Mike, I know Jindia Blount. Give him my best.
Ladies and gentlemen,
BigPatriotRadio.com.
All right, we'll get back into the conversation. So before we go to the end, you're in there, you're in the jail, you're walking through the jail.
Right.
You see Skip, you went into his cell, you said, and saw the little, I guess it's like 4x7 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not even that. Did you go anywhere else with the inmate?
No, as a matter of fact, as I walked in, turned to do that selfie, I was able to take the selfie, and there was a guard at the stand where Skip's room is facing, or where the guard stand is. And one of the gentlemen said to me, "Hey, come on out of there. You can't be in the jail cell." So I then I took the picture, turned, put the phone in my pocket, and
Yeah.
I of course listened to him, of course, but other than that, we went from there back the way we came in
Gotcha.
from that
So at
point.
least how many people, employees of the facility saw you, made eye contact with you from the moment you walked in the door before you came back out into the foyer?
Mike, if I did not see the video on TV live when people said, Tom, you better turn the TV on, that video, you walking in the jail is there, I would not have known, but at least seven, probably 5, 6, 7 guards that actually
Right.
were on duty that day, night, night during
I
the day.
have
Yeah.
I have to ask. Excuse me. Wow. Um, you had 7. Let's go say 5. Give them the benefit of the doubt. 5 people saw you. One, you say, hey, you don't belong in there. Did any of the other 4 or 5 or whatever? Did they say, whoa, stop? You're a civilian. You were dressed like a civilian. I saw what you were. You had a county council shirt on. Did they say, you stop, mister? You stop. You're a civilian. What are you doing here? Did anybody, lose their ability to, cognitively talk when they saw a civilian roaming the halls?
No. As a matter of fact, one of the interactions I had was with a guard that came by when I was talking to Skip, and the door was open, and she looked in and said something, and I don't even know what she said, but I said, hey, please remember, before I leave here today, I'd like to see Colonel Grant.
Right.
Because I was trying to get that set up before I went in, but she was busy on a conference or a video or something. But again, and she said, fine, thank you. And she kept walking. Nothing, was said about my phones or walking the halls. And a
Okay.
couple of times, I think it was on my own there with Skip, and he was kind of slow because he couldn't get around. I was leading him,
Yeah,
but
he did look rough.
yeah, well, listen, it's not a nice place to be. That's for
No.
sure.
So you come out of there, back into the foyer, and what do you see?
I come back out. I see Colonel Grant sitting down. I see John Robinson standing over her a little bit. I say hello. I reach down. I give the colonel a hug. How you doing? And again, they have it all recorded, but something to the effect. She says, "What are you doing back there?" I said, "Well, I set up an appointment." And at that point, the gentleman guard that took my backpack came out of his holding
Right.
area, and he was looking. And I said, "Well, I came in, set up an appointment with this gentleman." I said, "Sir, can I have my backpack back?" And
Right.
he actually went in to get it and handed it to me. He says, Colonel Grant, I believe, said something to the effect, "What is your backpack doing back there?" I said, "Well," he said, "I couldn't bring it into the jail. He had to take it before I went in." And she goes, "Now, if I was here," something to the effect, "if I was here, I wouldn't have let you in." And I said, "Well, Colonel, I don't know what to tell you, but I set up an appointment like any normal person would." And I actually, Mike, it's interesting. The conversation went to, there's an appointment that's set up at 12:30 here following me. And this woman is going to go in and see him as well. And Colonel said, "Oh, she's not going to get in." I said, "She's already set up the appointment." And she's, I didn't know any different. You go in, you set up an appointment. The gentleman, gave a business card. He didn't even ask me for my license, which is fine.
Right.
But my business, the county card. And I said, "But I'm telling you, she's set up to go in at 12:30 to see him." And
Yeah.
she was shaking her head, couldn't believe it. And I said, "Well,
So you
it's
were in the foyer in the entry area. You saw Colonel Grant. Was anyone else there with Colonel Grant?
John Robinson."
And he is the what?
He actually is the county assistant manager that manages all the activities at the jail, at
Okay,
the
so
detention center.
he's got public safety under his belt.
Yes, sir. Yep.
So you went in the facility. You had several conversations before going in. You talked. Matter of fact, I think I remember seeing you on the phone there in the foyer. They knew you had a phone. You talked with the guard. They handed you the keys. You went in. 5, 6, 7, whatever it is of them spoke to you. You come out. The colonel's there. Her boss is there. They
Right.
say, "Well, gosh, we wouldn't know. You shouldn't have gone in there." But did it at any time? At any time, did anyone in management? I would have become, I think, apoplectic in saying we have a major major malfunction here. A citizen not
Absolutely.
only gained access unfettered, but was given a set of freaking keys to the jail. Tom, first of all, did that ever happen? Did anybody lose their lunch and go, wait a minute, we've got a problem?
No, other than like to Colonel Grant sitting there saying, if I was here, I would have not let you in. And I'm like, well, why? I set up the appointment like the gentleman asked me
You didn't
to.
know you didn't know
Didn't
anybody.
know the procedures. And Mike, I think it's fair to note that when I went in, I had my keys hanging out of my pocket to my
Yes, you
left
did.
pocket. I had two phones. One of my phones was in my back pocket. A lot of that was out, which was clearly visible. I had a lanyard on with whatever notice of my name and such on there, which is not, it's against the law to go into. So again, there, nothing was said about anything, give me the lanyard, empty your pockets, nothing. So
That brings up a good point, and I know there will be someone out there that will say, well, he's a county councilman, he's using his office as a privilege. Did you announce to the little fellow behind the glass, I am County Councilman Thomas Reitz, and I have official business, county business here, and I want to come in and see the facility?
absolutely not. Never. I'm on behalf of the family. I talked to the wife last night. She feels this guy's not going to make it. He's going to die in jail. That's exactly what I told him, probably twice. And I thanked him. I also said, listen, I have an appointment or a meeting that I have to go to at 1 o'clock at the Arthur Horn, which is several feet away. At 1, if this can't be done now, I understand. But if I can get in before that, I'd appreciate it. Very nice, cordial. I mean, it was just normal. It was just like a normal procedure to go through.
All right. Now I'm on a kind of a time crunch, but I want to finish this story.
Yes, sir.
After you left the detention center, is it true that Assistant County Administrator Robinson called or met with one of the other, Chairwoman Howard and Vice Chair Tabernick?
Yes, sir.
Is that the event process?
Yes, it wasn't long after that leaving there, because again, we had to be at a 1 o'clock meeting, but
Yeah.
yes, I believe John advised them, yes.
Okay, so I mean, did Alice or Tab call and say, Tommy, what are you doing?
No, sir. I'm not sure. I didn't hear much of anything for a while. And then some officer Baird from the sheriff's department lit up my phone, and I was in meetings, and I came out and I saw the same number called. So I called back, and his first approach to me was, I want to get together with you. I'm doing an investigation. The Hoaglunds, Kathy and Skip, they lost or were scammed out of $1,800 because he was going to get an ankle bracelet and do the rest of his time at home. And I'm like, geez, what would I do with that? How do I know? Well, Skip feels you, or Calvin feels you have a knowledge of that. I said, geez, I don't know. That started the misleading way this sheriff approached me, which I guess it's in their purview to, make up stories or whatever to get information they want. I guess they're entitled to do that, but it's a heck of a way to do it. But that's my opinion. But that's how it started right there. A misleading investigation into an ankle bracelet that was a scam, which I
And
had
you
nothing
felt
to
that
do
that
with, of course.
you put up enough resistance. Correct me if I'm wrong, but did you put up enough resistance to that kind of bullshit questions for him to say, well, I'm really here to talk to you about something else?
Well, it's interesting that next discussion was supposed to be just a sit-down discussion, and just go back and forth on that. It ended up going from on the Hilton Head sheriff's office, going from the main lobby, which I knew a few people. I said hello, to where we walked into out the back door, into side door, into a very small room that was an interrogation room. It's turned out to be. And basically we sat down, and one of the first things he said was, I'm confident you did nothing wrong with your phones. but I got to read you your rights. And I'm like, wait a minute, the Miranda rights? And
Hey,
he did that.
whoa.
And this gentleman, Officer Baird, said probably multiple times that I recommend you get an attorney. You need an attorney. Don't, if you say anything, it could be used, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, wait a second,
Yeah.
this was supposed to be a discussion. He goes, well, there was some issues and procedural problems at the jail or at the detention center, and we're going to put you on record. I said, well, then with that, please, I'm going to take your advice and I'm going to get an attorney. And this is what, yes.
Gotcha. I don't want to go any further into the sheriff's department investigation. That's their thing. I want to get this story, and you've done an excellent job, Tom.
Sure.
Appreciate the way you've done this with what happened. Now, has anyone that you're aware of in the jail, from Colonel Grant on down to the sweeper, has anyone been questioned, interviewed, investigated, detained, fired, arrested, anything? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but looking at this from a set of eyes, in my little brain, the problem is the jail, not Tom Reitz.
Nothing to my knowledge. I haven't heard anything. I haven't seen anything. Nobody's approached me on it. Zero, nothing.
Tonight, Tom, and I appreciate you being on here. This is
My
tough.
pleasure.
I know that you and your wife and your family went through. I mean, this was gut wrenching. I can't even imagine. You know what I mean? But I appreciate you being on here, and I think we have laid out what took the sheriff's department months. I guess it was. We went through it very succinctly. Your intent was to help someone.
That's it.
You had no backdoor, underhanded reason, even though it sounds like the investigator may have tried doing that same perverse way of getting you to come in. Is this no good deed goes unpunished?
The only thing I'm going to say is that if it wasn't for my relationship with Christ and people like you and so many countless others that stepped up, I don't know where I'd be right now. It was a horrible experience. I probably lost a couple of years of my life. But there are people that stepped up, put their necks on the line for this fellow, and it helped me through it. And I'm telling you, I have a new respect for people that are inappropriately abused, if you get my meaning. I just, my wife and I, we talk about it, we pray about it. But my thing is that, we got to stick together, work together, care about each other, and come to each other's aid if need be. I'm telling you, a lot of people stepped up for me, and I'm here because of that incredible love and care.
Tom, you're a good man. I want to thank you again for being on here. As always, you are always welcome on this channel, this station, whatever. I obviously you're going to keep me in tune to what's going on. But I hope this out of the mouth of the man himself, we have heard that the intent was to help someone. He didn't get 120 phone calls. He got 3 or 4. What was that? I also heard, well, Hoagland promised you thousands of dollars for your campaign.
Well,
did you take a check from him for coming up there?
Absolutely not. Not before, not during, not after. And I actually told him, and it was recorded, and they have it. And I think the sheriff's attorney, Gormley, I think his name is, said that, in fact, I said absolutely no reason to even bring it up. I don't even talk about the money. It's not, I do this for anybody. But here's the deal, Mike, before you cut me off, and you should, thank you. You're an asset to Beaufort County and people. You give a voice to people. You keep things current. And if there's anything we can do for you, please let me know. Absolutely,
my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Reitz. He is county councilman in the 11th district here in Beaufort. Thank you again, sir. We'll talk to you soon.
Listen, thanks everybody out there as well listening. I appreciate it. God bless. God bless. Thank you.
Let's go! The station that keeps it rocking 24/7. Ladies and gentlemen, BigPatriotRadio.com.
All right, it is, what is it? It's a little past a quarter till. Let's keep this train going. We're headed across the county from District 11. We're going to go over to District 3. We have a couple of stories to go over tonight regarding St. Helena Island. And I'm going to bring on my guest here in just two shakes. We're going to start with the last one, which was this absolutely horrid mass shooting and the murders at the Corners community last Saturday night, Sunday morning. That was at Willie's Bar and Grill. Then we're going to go into some of the things you have not, I can tell you, you have not been told about Pine Island and how the Gullah folk, Gullah Geechee people that live there have lived there for centuries. They've been literally lied to. Literally lied to. I want to bring in our guest here in a second. She's a native of Houma, Louisiana. I love me some Cajun, and I'm just a Couillon, but I love Louisiana. She's a resident of Beaufort, South Carolina, lives there with her husband, Donnell. They're both veterans of the United States Navy, so thank you both for your service. They've raised their children here. They've got 2 grandbabies. I understand she's got 11 godchildren. That tells you a lot about her right there. She's got 11 godchildren. She's the person, the voice behind Smoke. That's SMOKE Athletics, the Smoke Athletics League, and the Henry Clay Foundation. We're blessed to have her with us today. I can only say, laissez le bon temps rouler to my friend from Beaufort. Please join me in welcoming Miss Jindia Blount to the show. Hey, Jindia, how are you?
Hey, Michael, how are you? Thank you so much for having me.
I am doing well. I'm doing well. It's so good to have you on here.
Listen, it's been a long time coming, right?
Absolutely. Well, ça va?
Ça va.
All right. It's good to have you on here. So let's just jump in here. Jindia, I want to, and I love that name, Jindia. That is so cool. Does that have a meaning?
It just means female warrior. It means female warrior. It's a ancient like Indian term. Yeah. But not like Native American, but like Eastern Indian.
I love it. I want to start out, as I was saying, with the recent murder, 4 souls senseless. I mean, that's not even putting it lightly. Injuring 20 others or 20 total, whatever. 4 of them, I understand, or 2 of them, I think, are still in ICU, critical care. I mean, where can we begin with this? I want to hear your input on this disgusting tragedy that has happened.
Yes, that's a great question. Thank you for asking me that. And I answer this question as best I can with a heavy heart, speaking from a place of PTSD and from a place of a person who is out here with these children and who has a bond with many of these children. And Michael, it is truly, truly heartbreaking. My heart goes out to the families of all of the victims who lost their lives that day. And to those people who are still trying to recover from their injuries. My understanding is that someone is in the hospital paralyzed right now. Someone is in the hospital with a bullet wound that went through the mouth in the hospital right now. So I hear these stories and it just breaks my heart. And it's really close to home because, as you know, I lost my only sibling to gun violence. And I tried to stop the bleeding. I tried to do CPR, but there was nothing I could do. So when I say I speak from a place of someone who has lived through this, when you've been in that space and you've lived through something as horrific as gun violence, you don't need to be at the scene of the next crime to understand where these families are coming from. As a youth mentor and as an advocate and someone who stands in the gap with these for these children and who kind of have these uncomfortable conversations with these kids what I kind of had an epiphany today, and I was like, I asked them, like, why do you feel you need to walk around with the switch, if you will?
Mhm.
And one of them said to me, well, Mama Smoke, it's like it's a jungle out here. And I said, so you're saying your home is a jungle? And they're like, well, Mama Smoke, you from the trap, you from the trenches, you know what that's like. And I said, touche, young man, touche, but I feel as though there's a disconnect. There's a huge disconnect between the elders in the community and the youth. And I think Aunt Pearlie Sue said it. I went to the Beaufort County Black Chamber of Commerce. They had a little praise and prayer at the Black Chamber, and I went there just to kind of show my support and just show my face, because I don't want to be divisive. I want to show up for everyone. Even though there's an open vigil that we've had pretty much every day at Willie's, I wanted to go. I was asked to come, so I'm always going to show up. But she said that we don't see one another, that the elders don't see the children and the children don't see them. There's a disconnect there. And one thing I can say Sheriff Tanner said that he was actually absolutely 100% correct about is the fact that social media has now entered the chat. And what is going on in their virtual reality world and their perceived virtual threats are now literally bleeding over into our black and white reality. And they are stuck in what I call the gray matrix, trying to find a way out. That is their reality, but it's perceived, and it's now bleeding over into the black and white reality where you said you were going to do this to me on a platform like TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram. And when I see you in real life, that's why I am now comfortable shooting you and pulling the trigger and shooting somebody else's child, because they don't have that human bond that we had. I remember when I was young, if I got caught doing something I had no business, the person who caught me was going to whip my behind, and they were going to bring me to my mama and my papa, and they were going to whip my behind too.
Oh yeah.
They don't have that anymore. We don't have that. So that human bond that connects or that humanizes another life for these kids, they're missing that. The mama and the dad and the grandparents and the elders in the community are fearful of the children, and the children are fearful of one another. How do we fix it? I don't know, but I have identified that much. That is what I do know. And I hear them and I feel them when they tell me that they get caught without it, then it's every man for himself. So I hear that and I feel that, and it makes my soul cry, Michael, because I feel these kids and I don't see them through the same lens that I believe other people see them through. I don't see them, and when I'm with them, they trust me because they know that I don't look at them or I'm not clutching my imaginary pearls when they walk in the room, and it's just a conversation that we need to try to figure out, how do we get back to that? How do we reintroduce them to our black and white reality and let them know that that's not real over there where you guys are living, but this is what's happening. And if you guys don't put the switches down, if you guys don't allow us to, if you don't reach out and grab my hand when I extend it to you, the next vigil, it's going to be yours. It's going to be your face on this next, on this next vigil that we're having.
Yeah. You said many things that are fantastic. And one of them, it really just struck me internally just now. You called it the gray matrix. I think that's what you said. Is that right? And talking about perceived reality, and I've
the
done
gray
a
matrix
show a couple times talking about
we black and white. It's black and white for a matrix.
Right. So they're taking a what some would perceived reality, when reality should be objective. But and you're right. The sheriff did say a couple things that I was glad he said it, that a lot of the problems begin here, or other electronic devices. And I think as I'm thinking about what you just said, I could see where they get into this gray matrix that becomes a subjective reality. It's really not reality. And you're right. You hit the nail on the head. How do we pull these kids out of subjective reality and put them back into objective truth and reality? That there shouldn't be, truth and reality are what they are. It shouldn't be, well, your reality is different from my reality. It shouldn't work that way. And you're right. I don't know how to fix that.
And it starts with me, and I can't speak to other people, but I have fostered genuine interpersonal relationships with these children. I have let them know that I came up in the same type of community you did. And I oftentimes tell them, y'all ain't hard. Y'all think y'all hard. Y'all soft as drugs, stole cotton, because you wouldn't last 2 minutes if I brought you home where I'm from. Yeah. Right. And I have to have those conversations with them. And oftentimes, Michael, believe it or not, I have to meet them where they are, meaning I'm a Christian woman, but I have to get down and I have to speak to them in a language that they understand, which oftentimes is decorated words that I care not to repeat, in front of my elders. But that's a language that they understand, because when we're talking to them like the caring, doting parent, they don't understand that. So you have to really get down and dirty with them, and you have to really speak to them in a language that they understand. And oftentimes they either look at you and you could see at first they're like, man, I don't care nothing about what this lady talking about. Then after, you drop a couple of more, F-bombs on them, they like, oh, wait, she knows what she's talking about. And then you see, oh, I have their attention. And then the next thing you're like, oh, she's not a stranger to the streets. And you're like, she's doing this because she really cares. And it stages, but after time, after a certain amount of time, and after them seeing you constantly continue to show up for them. And I've shown up for these kids hurting. I've shown up for these kids where I can barely walk. I'm 100% disabled. I have stage 4 AVN, but they see me show up for them every single time. And that means something, because they will tell you, they told my husband, man, Coach Don, you and Mama Smoke, y'all the only ones that really F with us for real. That was hurtful for me to hear. Yeah. Because I may not be, of the community, but I don't, God never told me it was a prerequisite for me to be of a certain community, for me to advocate for the youth. And he never told me that I had to seek the approval of the people in said community for me to walk in my purpose and to do his work. So would
you say or agree that, hearing that from those young people saying, hey, you know what, you're the only, you're real, would you agree that there's a little slimmer of shining hope that because they said that they can be transformed, they can be changed, they can be brought out of this dark lifestyle into the light? Would you say that you feel that way too?
I know they can. The God I serve would not have me out here doing this with these kids if it wasn't. Right. If there was not a way to reintroduce them to society as contributing members of society that they live in. And I'm not just speaking I'm walking this walk. I started this organization in 2018, and I still have my organization in Texas. I just started called it the Coastal Division, and started it back up here when we got here. But I know this is what I know. I'm not just saying something because it sounds good. Right. I'm not saying it because it seems like the popular thing to say. I've seen it. I just left today at 4:30. I took a child who, one of the kids who was in my program last year. He had, I think, a gun charge, and it was just something that he just got caught up. And he's a good kid. And I took this child to meet a business owner who's going to give him a chance and be an apprentice of the particular, without saying too much, of this trade, where he's going to, if everything pans out and my prayers are answered, these people are going to give this child a chance to learn this trade.
Good.
And this 19-year-old will now, if given the opportunity and my prayers are answered, will now be able to learn this trade and will start as an apprentice learning this trade at $18 an hour.
Okay.
And I think that without giving too much of the information out, I don't know. I don't want to tell the man's business or the business owner's business what he's doing. But if this works out and this child works out, then he's like, and then I'll get another one and another one. And I can feed people into this and take these kids and say, look, you don't have to do this. This is not the way. You're going to either end up in jail or you'll end up, worse, or dead. Yeah. So I just did that today at 4:30. Mm-hmm. So I know that it can be done. That's
amazing. So let's look at the problem at hand, and that's the shooting at Willie's Bar and Grill. I was rather vocal in coming out saying that, I can't believe it's been, I don't know how many days it was at that time, and we had nothing from the sheriff's office. They have placated us and say, well, they sent out Nixle alerts and all that, whatever. In this day and age, people want to know, even if they are told, we have nothing to tell you, we'll be back in 3 hours or 12 hours. People could have handled that. But to be, at least from the conversations I've had with some folks on St. Helena, specifically, but because they weren't addressed, they felt slighted. I think after hearing what I heard, especially from the sheriff, the sentence, I cannot tell you that you are safe in Beaufort County, end quote. Hearing that, I think everyone across this county has gotten a little more concerned. And why is that? Well, because if the chief law enforcement officer of this county has that take on things, my gosh, we are in a bad place. Because
doomed.
Because years ago in 2011, I have a video that I haven't played, but I don't know, a video of Sheriff Tanner talking about how there is no gang problem. I have a conversation that I had with Sheriff Tanner when I was on county council and was told we don't have a gang problem. During the interview, just 2 days ago or whatever, all of a sudden, we're told we have had this long-standing gang problem. Now, I knew we did because of a relationship I have in the state highway patrol. I knew we did, just like our drug problem. 95 and 17 is the pill parkway. The amount of cakes of pills that come into Beaufort County would choke a Cheshire cat. Why are we, and maybe I shouldn't say we, but why do I feel this way? A lot of people that I've talked to feel this way, feel like we're not getting the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God, from law enforcement, especially with what happened at Willie's Bar and Grill.
So I'll tell you this much. I believe that the problem lies with accountability, and it lies with not wanting to step on one another's toes or make someone look bad when the people are not. We don't care about that. We just want answers. And to say, oh, well, I can't tell you you are safe in Beaufort County is saying that I can't tell you that I'm good at my job almost. That's what it's perceived as by the people. You said, what is the problem with law enforcement? Well, the problem is not necessarily with the law enforcement, because I believe arrests are made. I think that the problem lies with legislation. Mm-hmm. With my brother's murder, there was a fundamental breakdown, at the base. level of like Texas state law at the time, and just a pattern of like just gross dereliction of duty when it came down to making charges stick. So I think when they make these arrests, it's like fishing. It's like catch and release. They make these arrests, and there's it's not that they don't have enough evidence, but they question whether the evidence that they have will stand up in court. Whether the evidence will be enough to stick. And it's like, I think that's where the issue is. The issue is a legislation issue, whereas it's, oh, well, that's hearsay and that's not going to stand up in a court of law. So we need an eyewitness account to match the ballistics and the forensics. Well, I mean, if you have ballistics and you have forensics and you know that this is what this is, what else? How do we then change the legislation so that you don't need you know what I mean? You don't need so much to make a charge stick. I think that's where we need to start, or at least kind of be sniffing around that area.
What do you think? What do you think about the fact that now in South Carolina, our sentencing and bond, sentencing rules and bond rules are set by it's the court administration in Columbia. So here's where I'm going with that. There are two young men that were arrested after this event and prior to our having this conversation. They were wrongly, it was put on Facebook that they were arrested for the murder or possibly, but they were not arrested for murder. They were both arrested for having a machine gun. Now, it's illegal as illegal can be to have a machine gun. The same with these switches. That is illegal. You cannot do that. My question is, do you agree that the court administration that sets these bonds, because these two gentlemen bonded out, one in particular, who I believe, at least from what I'm understanding, is the one they think is the perpetrator in this whole thing, he bonded out from having a flipping machine gun. And he happens to just have a record that is as long as 95 is. Is that another place that they can really start to get teeth in to where people know, bond for this isn't going to be 25,000, it's going to be 125,000, and that's a tough nut to crack. Is that a good place to start?
Absolutely. I believe it is, because and not only that, my papa, rest in peace, he used to always tell me, baby, follow the money. Follow the money. If you want to find the core where the corruption lies, always follow the money. Always. I question why the whole process of how those or what dollar amount those bonds are set at lies there. I don't think that's where it should even be. If you ask me personally, I think that's another piece of legislation that we need to get out, and we need to try to, this is not working. That is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We have done this way for years, and it is not working out for us because the children are killing one another, and not just children, but people altogether. And, you have people that would say, oh, well, just stop. I'm not a no gun person. I'm not. I believe in safe and responsible, but I'm not an anti-gun person. I'm just not. I believe that safe and responsible and doing it safely and responsibly, whatever that looks like, we also need to explore that. We need to unpack this and get back to the drawing board, and we need to we need to be able to have the conversation and sit across the table from people who we may not agree with one another's political views, but we have to iron out the policy and get party out of the mind for a second and say, okay, let's talk policy. And I think oftentimes that stuff is attached to emotion. It's attached to, it's attached to education, right? It's attached to education. When I graduated high school, you used to have a half credit of civics and free enterprise. Now that's not even, that's unheard of. Right?
Civics is unheard of anymore.
So I think that's where we could start to begin with. Follow the money, go back to legislation and policy.
So I had the opportunity over the last several days. I've spoken with Willie Terrell, the owner of the establishment, several times. And today we spoke and we emailed back and forth. He has actually a couple pieces of legislation that he has had someone draft along with him. I was fortunate enough to have him send that to me, and I added some amendments and some strike and deletes that these two things, if they were to come to fruition, I don't know if you've heard about them or not, but would make gun or firearm manufacturers, ammunition manufacturers, wholesalers, retailers would pay a half of 1% into a fund into the state for PTSD or recovery, people who have been through this problem and there's nothing for them right now. And the other thing is it's a responsible that, if you have a responsible act, if you have, these switches or these things that are illegal, from the gun manufacturer or the retailer and all this kind of stuff, there's a little bit more held accountable. But my wife had just commented on here. I want to bring her comment up. This was another interesting thing I put on the screen here. Sheriff Tanner said, 500, 600, 700. I mean, that's a pretty wide. I think we could narrow that down a little bit.
Way.
However, whether it was 700 or there was 7 people at the bar and no one saw the gunman. There's an old saying that, snitches get stitches. Is that the reason that the police, the sheriff's department, and he admitted, he said, nobody wants to talk. Is that the reason?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's
How do
the
we
reason.
fix that?
That's
How do we
the-
fix that?
To be honest with you, until and I'm gonna use myself as an example. I did not realize that police brutality or not, and I'm not going to say that because it's got such a negative connotation attached to it, and I think it's kind of like polarizing between like races when it has nothing to do with race. It's really more about the abuse, misuse, and overuse of power, period. It has nothing to do because the officer who killed my brother was Black, right? But I was, I guess, blind or deaf to that until it happened to me. And I say that to say that it's easy to say snitches get stitches until it's your loved one.
Yeah.
And I believe that it just is going to take repetition. It is going to take what I'm doing, getting out here and getting face to face, up close and personal with these kiddos, saying, listen, what is it that you fear? And which they've answered that question for me. However, we have to get back to feeding into and to making them feel safe again, because like I said, they are fearful of one another. They are fearful of, well, I can't run in the same circles with them, right? Or I want to come out and do this, but such and such is on there, and I don't run in the same circles with him because my friend and my homeboy it's pandemonium. So it's about humanizing it for them. You have to humanize it for them because you have to find somebody close to them and say, okay, you do these exercises. And I do real life exercises. Like, okay, you know, you can't talk to her. You have to no, she's like, she just got shot. She just got shot. I know that that's your baby sister, but you can't. So it's like, no, I don't want to play. I don't want to do this exercise anymore. Well, that's the reality of it for these people. So you have to really meet them. When I say meet them where they are, you have to get and have those uncomfortable conversations with them,
right,
for them to get it, because they are very visual and hands-on. But if we're walking past them because they're in their phones like this, or because they're doing the things that their generations removed and they're acting like they don't have manners, and we're walking past them because we don't want any parts of them, we're not going to get it like that.
Yeah.
We're just not.
So we see that, I think where we are, we can safely say that there is a problem in a generation or two have removed themselves from reality and are creating a false reality. Some of it is fault of this. This is a fault of a lot of stuff. I think we can say that there is an issue. I'm not blaming the sheriff's department, but I think there is some blame to share. A lot of people have been vocal trying to blame the establishment. Now, I had said, somebody had, it's my wife. What am I talking about? And other people have been commenting about 700. I talked to the owner and I said, how big is your parking lot, bro? And he said, I've got 8 spaces. 8 spaces. Well, there are 500, 600, 700 people. He said, well, there may have been, but they weren't on my property. He said, I've got 8 spaces. That's it. So let's just say, adjoining to the property of his, there's a dirt road. There's a gentleman, I think their last name is Gardner or something. Penn Center has some property. There across the road is Parker's, and I think diagonal is like Penn Center. 7, let's just say it's only 500. Okay, let's just go with 500. It's St Helena Island. It's Saturday night, Sunday morning, 1:00 on St Helena Island. If there are 500 people, if there are 300 people in one place, that's going to draw attention. In my mind, because St. Helena has a specific number of deputies assigned to it, just like Hilton Head, just like Grays Hill, just like Burton, et cetera, et cetera. Where were, with 300, 500, 700, whatever, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of cars. Why was nobody there? There were 6 security officers or security people there, but why was there no Beaufort County Sheriff's Department? I mean, if something like that is going on St. Helena Island at 1:00 in the morning, I would think that would be the center of attention for everything. And yet I digress. Across the street from a Parker's, where every time I pass one in this county, there's an officer sitting there. We have an abstract failure in many circles here.
I agree. A few things you said. First, the 700. I frequent Willie's. I'm there at least 2 to 3 times a week. I have to go have my hot honey wings fixed. Okay. So I'm there. That particular night, I've got stage 4 AVN. That particular night, my hip was just really hurting. So I didn't go. I'm grateful that I wasn't there. So I want to start there. As someone who frequents Willie's and someone who even during Heritage was at Willie's, there weren't even that many people in the parking lot and during the Heritage Parade. And that's the best spot to be when the parade comes around the corner and goes down MLK. So when the parade comes up 21 and makes that left down MLK, that is the best spot to be. And there weren't that many people there at that corner in the parking lot of Willie's during Heritage because I was there. So that is an exaggerated number, first and foremost. My second point is there are a lot of elderly people on the island of St. Helena. Parker's is a business. across the street from Willie's, you have the Green, which is owned by St Helena. I mean, which is owned by the Penn Center, and then you have that empty parking spot that's on the other side of the little dirt road, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm more than sure with that many people, you've got traffic, you've got cars, you've got people with loud music. Somebody would have called.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm saying this to you, Michael, because and I was not sure whether I would mention this tonight, but I have to just to kind of give you a reference point.
Mm-hmm.
But my son is 19 years old, and my son and his best friend were on Penn Center, and they were fishing, okay, on the public pier at Penn Center one night, and there's no curfew on this pier at Penn. It's a public pier.
Right.
They had their fishing bait. They had some French fries from McDonald's, and they were bored. There's nothing on the island for these kids to do. So my son, his best friend, she loves to fish, and two other kids who had just graduated from Beaufort High were on the pier at Penn Center fishing. And they were in their cars, and there was no alcohol. There was no marijuana. My son doesn't drink. He doesn't, at this time, no drinking, no smoking, no marijuana, nothing. These kids were fishing. And the cops got called on them for fishing at Penn Center. And I'm telling you this not to point any blame, but I'm using this as a reference point.
Mm-hmm.
And he FaceTimed me. My only sibling was killed by an off-duty officer. So there's still some family anxiety there. He's like, Mom, I'm freaking out. Like the cops are here. And I'm like, wait a minute, son, what's going on? So, and he's extremely high functioning, great kid on the spectrum. So I'm worried about now, is my child going to be scared and then somebody's going to misinterpret his, so I'm like, son, focus. Let's get what's going on. Well, we're fishing, Mom. So someone made, I guess, a wrong turn because it's dark back there. And when they went to turn around, I guess the cops were called. And I'm trying to talk to my son, and the officers are speaking to my son. And I'm like, with all due respect, let me just be a mom right now. And then let me figure out what's going on with my kid.
Mm-hmm.
They asked him, why were his eyes red? Now he has severe anaphylactic allergies to shellfish. And his best friend, she was fishing with shrimp, and the shrimp juice popped in his eye, and one of his eyes was red. I took offense to the fact that they asked my child why were his eyes red? Because again, there's no smell or suspicion of alcohol, no smell or suspicion of marijuana or anything. So why would you ask my child that? Is it against the law to ride with allergies now? Right. I say someone called the cops on the kids because they said that it looked suspicious. So if someone is calling the cops on good, and the officer said, these are just good kids. They're sitting out here fishing, eating their McDonald's with the fishing poles and the bait and the French fries. And I said, well, thank you for that, officer. Now, I didn't pursue the issue because his best friend's mom decided that, she didn't want to press forward with the issue once we found out who it was that called the cops on the kids and why they didn't go down there to find out and to see that it was just innocent kids fishing. If they called the cops on innocent children at the pier fishing, you can't tell me that somebody wouldn't have called the cops and complained about 700 people at this establishment. So I use that as a reference point to say you got 4 kids at the pier fishing and they called the cops.
Mm-hmm. Great
and nobody
point.
said anything about 700 people.
Yeah.
So that it's a no for me. I'm sorry. And
I'm with you.
And as far as culpability being on the establishment or the owner itself of the business or the establishment, well, let's just call a spade a spade. The weapon was introduced outside of the establishment. And from what I'm told from accounts, and that it wasn't even on the property. And I don't know because I was not there.
Right. I have been told that part too.
So again, I say this from the sincerest part of me. My heart goes out to those families because I've lived that. But we have to also keep in mind that this is how he feeds his 7 children. So we are vilifying a victim here because he also is a victim.
Big time.
He's a victim. Business has come to a screeching halt.
Yep.
And we have to keep in mind when we're saying these things that how it's impacting someone who, and let's go ahead and pop the pimple while we're here and have the uncomfortable conversation, which I'm okay with it. Because if at the end of the day, my presence or my words offends someone into action, and the end result is that the community, the end product is the betterment of the community as a whole, then I see no harm, no foul. But a business owner who 19 days prior to the shooting was in front of his county council constituents, advocating, saying the kids are killing one another. They're shooting one another. And if we don't do something soon, it's going to get worse. And please, I'm begging you guys to consider other options because we're doing nothing and they're continuing. It's just perpetuating the violence in the community. And they're shushing him. Shut up, hurry up, speed it along. And then 19 days later, it happens on his front porch. You make an incredible headway into where I was going. And I'm so glad you did that. But before I get ready to ask what I'm getting ready to ask you, I do want to say in our conversations with Willie, and I want you to know this, I told Willie, I said, look, when you're ready to reopen, if obviously I don't want any money, but you call me, I want to be there. I want to help you. I'll stand there in a line with you and cook French fries or serve drinks or shake hands at the door. I don't care. But people need to support him because you're right. He is as much a victim in this as anybody. And Willie Terrell, you're right, spoke in front of county council. Even the county councilman for that area, who I put on the face, or somebody put on the face and I borrowed it, of a milk carton because he's been gone. He's nowhere around. There is a problem there. Okay. And I want to move this into the Pine Island subject because Pine Island would have provided some things, not everything, but some things for those youth of the island to do. Now, the gentleman developing that island had put, I don't even remember what it is now, but he was going to build a community center. I know for watching county council meetings for the better part of a year, there's been a young lady has come to every single one and said the same thing, that, they don't have anything. They want a community center. They want a rec center. They don't want to be the stepchild of the county. We have someone who is offering that. He's offered that twice now. That's not going to cost anybody a dime. And there are people who have come out, in my opinion, you tell me if I'm wrong, at the behest of the Queen and County Councilman York Glover to say, no, we don't want your money, which is beyond stupid because now you're going to have to pay for it. You don't look a gift horse in the mouth. He's not wanting anything for this. It's part of the plan, the Pine Island plan. You've seen it. I've seen it. Some people haven't. But they've been lied to, Jindia. The folks on St Helena Island have been lied to by the people who are supposed to lead. Where's my fingers at? Supposed to lead them. They've been lied to. What say you about that? From your mouth to God's ears, Michael. I can speak. I kind of entered this thing from a place of I work with the youth and I'm struggling. I have a youth nonprofit. It's an athletic mentoring program. Athletics is just something that's the draw.
That's the
But
conduit.
the end product is to mentor them and to teach them and to kind of guide them and to help them find their way.
Right.
And I'm here and I'm doing these things and we're doing all the things. I have a tier 3 AAU organization, which is not like just recreational sports. AAU is a $1 billion industry.
Yep.
And I'm providing a platform for these children to showcase their talents in a space where college scouts will come and give them an opportunity to play basketball at the next level. Opportunities that high schools don't often give these children.
Right.
And I am struggling to find gyms for them to practice in because I've chosen a quote unquote side, they call it. And I don't see it as choosing a side. I see it as utilizing resources that were being provided in order to mentor these children. That's what I saw it as. But because of where I stood and because I was not opposed to it, it was close the doors, don't invite her to the cookout, blackball the business, say no, don't allow her to use this gym, tell her no, oh, well, you're letting this, oh, well, you do know she's for that golf course, right? And not understanding the why. But what it is, and what I found is that at its core, it is familial ties or community ties, or I hear what you're saying, but I literally had a neighbor tell me this. Well, I hear what you're saying, but if what you're saying is true, then my friend, she's real smart. She's real smart, and she said, don't be for this. That's where they're at, the mentality of it. Now, when we break it down into, okay, well, let's make it make sense. Let's find out what it is. Let's learn about it. No, I don't want to hear. So it was it's not, yes, they were lied to, but and this is just me personally, I believe in accountability. If I make a bad decision because I was not knowledgeable about something, I can't point my finger and say, Michael, you didn't tell me, because it's my responsibility to learn and to educate myself about the happenings and the goings on around me. So to a certain extent, yes, it's the responsibility of the elected leaders and the community leaders, the church leaders, and the people that we trusted. I trusted you to lead me in the right direction. But once somebody comes to me and say, well, I can't tell you what to do, but here, just read this. I read. I've been reading since I was like 3.5 years old. One thing about I read. I'm not going to do it because you told me.
Right.
Then enters the problem of, and it's a sad reality, and I'm not too ashamed to repeat it, but they say, if you want to hide something from my community, put it in black and white, put it in writing, because we don't, meaning the people from my community, the people that look like me. And I know that that's true across the board. It doesn't pertain to a certain demographic, but that's the same. There was a fundamental betrayal of the leadership, where they wanted, yes, we want this for our community. Yes, we need this for our children. And yes, we need help. We want all of the things. We don't want it from you. We don't want it from you. We need help. And let me tell you, I was like, hashtag Logan for president, because when Logan Cunningham got up to the mic and he said what he said, I took that soundbite and I reposted it on my social media, because he said everything that needed to be said. And he said it so eloquently, because he said, you say, I want all of the things of Bluffton and Hilton Head, but we don't want to do what Bluffton and Hilton Head did to get it. And I'm just saying, we're not saying pass it. We're saying at least listen to it. Negotiations are what, great things happen out of negotiation. It's when I start here, you start here, we come to the table and we come to an agreement. That's all we were asking, was that the community sit and negotiate and hear what was being offered.
Right.
Because they moved the goalpost. So this child, and I say child, it's just a Louisiana thing, but this child came here and he purchased this property. And under the pretense that when he purchased it under the pretense that he could do a thing, which was the way the letter of the law was written at the time. He was allowed, under the way the way that the ordinance was written, he was able to develop a 6-hole golf course at the time. And when I sent you a timeline that I made, and while he was waiting for whatever it was that he was waiting for to be read in the ordinance, the cultural protection, the ordinance, they went and they submitted a first reading, and the first reading and the second reading and the third reading happened before he was able to go and finalize whatever it was. So people have said, oh, well, he knew when he came here that he could not do that, and that could not be further from the truth.
Yeah, that's not true.
They moved the goalpost. It went and they restructured it. So when they restructured it, and there's federal, there's so many layers to this that we would be here until tomorrow trying to unpack it.
But you know that
they moved the goalpost, and I think it's called taking, where when you purchase a property with the sole intent of investing something on said property, and then the jurisdiction or whatever the governance is or whatever you call it they change it to where you cannot do what you wanted to do with your money, then I think federally that's just not. Yeah, I don't think that's.
Yep, absolutely. You're right. I don't want to go down all those rabbit holes of the CPO and all that. I want to keep it very up here, because it's when you really get down to it, forget about the CPO. I mean, it's either you're going to have a bunch of freaking houses with septic tanks and chemicals and traffic and schools and taxes and all that shit, or you can have very few houses, a golf course that drains internally, doesn't affect taxes, doesn't affect schools. Only those that have second homes, which they're the ones that pay for it, and they're the ones that would be the few homes there. I mean, it's a no-brainer. And when you go back, Jindia, to the very beginning, the owner of that property, who, by the way, over the last 52 years or something, has been somebody from New England, oddly enough. But anyway, the owner of that property was prayed over by elders on St. Helena that were in favor of him doing something. I remember the conversation Mr. Tropiano and I had, and he said, wouldn't it be cool if the next Tiger Woods came from St. Helena? I'm like, man, that's amazing. Who's ever thought of that? And he goes, well, I want to be able to provide that. And then all of a sudden, the elders get amnesia. The county councilman turns a 180, and as does, the self-appointed queen or whatever. And this guy is like the bubonic plague. But we move fast forward, Jindia, to like present day. After all these lies, I feel so bad, because there are some people who have said, it's almost like the Gullah community is being gullible, because they're listening to people as their heritage is proud to do, but they're being told lies, and they're going to get what they didn't want. But present day, we now know, I think it's called Orange Grove or something on Trask property on St. Helena, is where Yorkie Poo, he wants a piece of that property to put this publicly funded, from you and me, community center. I mean, this is Jindia, to me, this is a classic bait and switch a corruption-filled, the bucket is flowing over.
Yes, it is. And it's rules for thee, not for me. And you know, Logan said, oh, they've accused people of doing backroom deals. This is a backroom deal if there ever was one. You said a few things that I kind of wanted to touch on. I know we talked about, I told you earlier about basic civics and free enterprise and it being education, but it's people. I have this book that, and this book, if you can find it, it's called A Holy Admirable Thing. And this book was written by the Coastal Conservation League. And in this book, I don't know on like what page it was, but they talk about when they first came and they found these people of St Helena Island, and they, you know, and they speak of it's one of the most paternalistic reads you will ever find. And
Really?
then people in this book, they speak of the people of the Gullah Geechee people like they were just some primitive prehistoric people, like some Neanderthal type people, where they had to go in and we took and we saved them, and it's just disgustingly paternalistic. And one of the things that I read was that the term used was shameless manipulation.
Shameless manipulation.
Basically, shameless manipulation. And it alluded to the fact that all they really had to do was listen and hear the things that they were fearful of and kind of just conform to that rhetoric to get them to get to sway their, you know, their opinion or their approval or disapproval of anything. Meaning that these people are proud of their heritage, right? As am I, right? As a, you know, Creole Cajun gal, right? But when you tell them that their way of life is in danger, then you evoke emotion, and then you can convince them that this is a bad thing. And then whatever this thing is, no matter how many times I come and say, oh, but this is going to come with this, it's going to come with that, it is now synonymous with my culture is in danger. So that is what has happened. They have said that, you know, oh, they like to try to come and tell us what's good for us, but they don't know what's good for us. And, you know, oh, you come, yeah, we don't need you, and we got our own kids, and we can do whatever. We don't need you. We've had this before, and we've had sports before, and we don't need anything you have to offer, right? Yeah. But then in the same breath, go and say to council, we need this, and the kids need that, and the kids need this. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm here. So I'm saying that to say that when we said, hey, you realize that 150 permanent homes, and you said all the things about what the a permanent resident and the second homes, 49 second homes. But one thing you said that I want to add to what you said, which was all correct, is voting. Voting. Those people with those second homes, they would not have the same voting power as somebody who is a permanent resident. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, that spoke volumes, because that was what I led with. You realize that the percentage of Black people who are Gullah Geechee descent, it's now in the like maybe 20 to 30 something percentile. When you introduce 150 homes that a person like me is not going to be, that's not my price range. Now you are going to get the gentrification that you so fear.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It was falling on deaf ears. It was falling on deaf ears because their minds were made up, because like you said, they did not want, well, I understand, but I can't be seen with you because I don't want them to, you know, I just don't want to, I don't want no parts of it, because I don't want to be, I don't want them to snicker at me when I go to church on Sunday. Or I don't want the sewing circle or the sister circle to say that I'm a sellout. But
do you see, just really, you know, what we're talking about? Do you see like a very high level similarity with what we're talking about with Pine Island, and what we were talking about earlier with snitches and stitches, and there's a very high level closeness
Absolutely.
that we somehow, I mean, that's got to be broken.
Yes. And they're like, oh, well, these kids, they don't, but look at the example. We're telling you guys that there's a different way, but you're setting your way too. So what are we doing? What even is this at this point?
It just doesn't make sense.
But you are absolutely right.
When I was on county council, York and I got on at the same time. The Gullah Farmers Co-op was not existent, and that's what he had wanted to do, and he needed help. I helped him get the building donated. I helped him get that started because and many people when I went out there, they're like, well, you're in Bluffton. What do you give a shit about us? And I said, well, I mean, I believe in whether it's Gullah culture or if you go up 21 in northern Beaufort County, you've got the I don't know how you say it, but the African village, and then any other tribal unit, whatever. I don't want to see any heritage get moved out. And you're right. You talk about gentrification coming in, put 150 houses in there. All of a sudden, you're going to see the squeeze on the Gullah Geechee folks of St Helena Island, where the capital, as they call it. I mean, it's going to be gone fast. And I don't know. I just don't know. I'm at a loss of words. I really am.
I believe that the real thing that hurt me the most was that they did not get a chance to hear it. Yeah. They didn't get a chance to hear it because it was just so much. There was just so much background noise that they did not get a chance to hear what was offered, to be able to say, you know what? I want to make an informed, educated decision, not a decision based on this is the popular thing to do. And I make a reference I'm a psychology major, by the way. I make a reference to groupthink. Groupthink is it's either an inability or a refusal to independently be able to take that information, digest it, and say, let me do an apples to apples comparison and just, like your mom used to tell you, okay, let's weigh the good and the bad. Let's weigh our options here and see what, and just weigh the options. It was a refusal to do so, like an inability to do so.
And that was set up. That was set up.
It was absolutely set up. I'm so glad you recognize that, because what is not an exaggeration is the number of people that were. I'll give you an example. I met a young lady named Kira at the meeting, and she had on one of our shirts that said downzoning equals responsible growth. But as she was walking in the door, a sign was shoved in her face, and she was holding up a sign saying, protect the CPO. And I said, excuse me, sweetie, but you realize that your shirt and your sign, they say two different things. And she said, oh, really? I said, yeah, you've got a shirt on that says that, you're here with my, in support of negotiating this whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But your sign says that you're against it and you don't. She said, oh, well, I live in, I'm here, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, Ticton Farms or something like that. How do you say it? Ticton Farms? But she said that she was told that something similar to the Ticton Farms, y'all don't beat me up about it, but what that happened near Ridgeland was happening here, and that she could come and stop it from being purchased. And I ran into other people who were told whatever it was that they needed to be told to get them into the room so that it could create an optic that this many people were just dead set against this thing. And they didn't even take into consideration the people who were actually there in support of us, who wanted to further negotiate and say, we don't want this, but we want this. They were just like, we don't care. We don't even want to talk about it.
So
I think that was where the huge injustice was done.
Yeah.
There was a disservice.
We know that the CCL, the Coastal Conservation League, and or their fingerlings had people from other states here at that meeting. And a lot of folks don't know that, but it is true. And that's just dirty. That's a dirty political organization. The fact of the matter is, as we're going to come to a close here, the fact of the matter is Beaufort County Council's Natural Resources Committee, their statement, the sole existence of that committee is to hear and negotiate development agreements. That's what they're there for. So, in fact, Beaufort County Council, because they didn't let this happen, they didn't let the development agreement process go through. They set it up. They stopped it. It was, again, the learned could see it. Those who have been in that game have seen it. Maybe, everybody who's normal folks wouldn't know that, but that's what happened. That's what happened. That's wrong. And it's just wrong. It's just wrong.
I think, and this is just me, if they don't find a way to try to resurrect at least a negotiation, what's going to happen is, and I'm hearing that, this is federal case is going to go in front of Judge Gergel's court or whatever. They're going to look at just the brass tacks of everything and say, so you came in, you did this, you offered this, and you offered again, and you offered it again. You offered it 3 times, and they said no 3 times. And the alternative is this, which is detrimental. Right. And they said no, and he's going to strike his gavel, and this man is going to get everything that he wanted. Yep. And the community will get, they just won't get shit because of their refusal to at least come to the table and have a conversation.
I've said it many, many times, Jindia, and I want to thank you for being on here, but I've said it many times that, the older I get, the more I believe that the word communication, if we as humans could fix that, we could probably fix almost anything: marriages, friendships, relationships, political battles, Pine Island, the gang. We can fix it all if we just communicate. That's it. I can handle bad news. It's no news I can't handle.
Absolutely.
Darling, I appreciate having you on here. I want you to come back. I want to learn more about the Smoke Athletic League. I want to get you on here for that. Thank you so much for being on here. You are always welcome here on Beaufort County's House of Cards.
God bless you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. All right. It is the end of the show. 5 minutes before the top of the hour, I want to tell everybody, first of all, thank you, Jindia Blount, for coming on here. Gosh, what a great lady. And she's got God working through her soul. And she's going to go somewhere. She is it. She's the real deal. I want to thank Tom Reitz for being on here. Finally getting to hear from the horse's mouth. We didn't have any bad intent. There wasn't any malice. Come on. Failure was on the county detention center failing to do their job. Yes, smack his hand. That was not the smartest thing to do. Come on. Anyway, I hope the folks out of St Helena Island have some time to heal those families. We wish all those families, there's really nothing, you can't say enough. We wish them to get through this time period. Someone had mentioned earlier, let me see if I can find it. I think it was Jamie. Jamie, where are you? Where are you? Here. Jamie says, come out and support Willie's Bar and Grill tomorrow night, 6 p.m. with Sea Eagle Market. I wasn't aware of that. I'm going to talk to the boss here in a little bit and see if we can't do that. Then I'll talk to Willie and see if he'd like to. But yes, if that's happening tomorrow night, please get out there and support Willie's Bar and Grill, Breakfast Bar and Grill there on St. Helena at the Corners Community, Highway 21 and MLK. Be sure to tune in, or rather, be sure to get out there and support them. If we can make it happen that quick, we certainly will get out there and love to meet everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Tune in next week. Be sure to tell your friends, neighbors. Tune in 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Facebook, YouTube, simulcasting on BigPatriotRadio.com. I just got another message that it is Sea Eagle Market tomorrow night. There's a youth praise and prayer vigil going to happen at Willie's Bar and Grill. Jindia just let me know that. Make sure I got that on there. I hope so, Jamie. I hope so. We'll see if I can make it. There's going to be a food truck, she says, going to be there. All right. Awesome. BigPatriotRadio.com. BigPatriotRadio.com. Don't forget to see the folks at Skips, TheFuskyTees.us. Ooh. Don't forget to like and subscribe to those channels. Tell your friends about it. We're getting close to those 2,500 stars. So help us out when and where you can. Until then, from everybody here at BigPatriotRadio.com in Beaufort County's House of Cards, be safe and watch your six. Good night, everybody.